This is Assalamu alaikum. This is Salahuddin Muhammad. I just want to record a few thoughts. I've been watching a ton of footage and thinking and reflecting on my experiences at various locations where I've taught seminars. And I think that it's very important that we evaluate the structure of the attacks that are used in our training. In my dojo, I make a very specific point to tell my students that when they are attacking, it must develop a sense of urgency in the training. There must be some element of fear that develops during the training, or you develop artificial responses. Sometimes when I go to do seminars or I view other people's practice, I notice that when they're training in so-called aiki, whatever variation that it is or that you like to call it, whether it's aikido, aiki jujutsu, aiki budo, or just something that someone threw together and called aiki. When you are training these methods, you have to have some kind of vitality to the attacks. I notice some people just throwing a strike here, or they throw Yoko Minucci, and it's here. And it creates a very artificial environment. And you are not going to develop any kind of respectable ability. And then if your skills are called upon, you're going to fail miserably. Another thing that I would like to say is that when you train in this material, if you are used to throwing the chambered punches from the hip, that is fine if that's what you're doing in practice. But when you start working on your applications, you really should be facing the type of pressure, the type of angles, and the type of skill level that you're going to face. So I recommend stepping away from Yoko Minucci, Shomenuchi, ski. I think you should learn to throw proper punching combinations, a proper jab, a proper cross, a proper uppercut. There's nothing wrong with pushing the limits in your practice. As a matter of fact, to not do so is detrimental. I gave a discussion to the students the other night. I had one student in particular who was moving in a very lax manner. Now, it's okay to begin your training in a particular method slowly. There's nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, in order to feel connections, oftentimes slow movement is good, but it cannot be artificial. You have got to rock and roll a little bit there. So when you throw Yoko Minucci, you have to understand what that is, where it comes from, and what it represents. It should be something that creates a level of stress. Now, people hear the word stress and misunderstand it. Stress is unavoidable in life. So if your practice never pushes you to the point where you have a sense of urgency, even a sense of fear, a respectful fear, not an abusive fear. We're not talking about an instructor that's pounding on new students for his own ego gratification. But one must be able to throw sharp strikes. Another thing that I would like to address is the people that think that these connection drills, whether they're body grabs or forearm grabs, are useless. It's very telling, and it shows that they do not understand the material. Anything that you do properly in the internal arts, whether you want to call it aiki, internal power, the really respectable people can do all the same things against punches and kicks. So we have to get away from misunderstanding this material. So I even hear high-level people in arts like Hapkido, Aikido, they say, well, yes, we train in these and we know that they're not practical. That is a total misunderstanding of the material. People say, well, nobody grabs you like that. But I would like to point out that in self-defense situations, and I will provide video evidence, wrist, forearm, and arm grabs happen all the time. If someone has a punch coming in at them and they happen to deflect and grab that wrist, well, guess what this is? It's really not that hard to figure out. You can watch videos of prison knife attacks. You can watch all kinds of footage out there, and you will see people grasping. It's sort of like the drowning man syndrome. They're very dangerous. Try to save someone that is drowning, and they will grasp frantically. A lot of people lose sight and composure of themselves. So during their demonstrations, they can do these beautiful things, but because they have not developed a connected self, they panic and their art goes out the window. I respectfully submit that you can keep fluid, poised, and correct form. But the problem is that people do not address the emotional elements, the psychological elements that connect to the techniques. Proper breathing, proper body alignment, and confidence. This confidence can only be developed by facing that adrenaline dump, that fear. So when you are doing these attacks, you have got to be sincere. And if you are a training partner that is just lackadaisical, swinging the limbs like this, it promotes a laziness. A laziness in many ways, physical, psychological, and emotional. You will never, ever get to understand how to handle things under duress. So I would just like to point out that when you're training, that you do need to push the limits. It is fine when you're first beginning to go slow for clarity's sake, but there has got to be some kind of sense of urgency in the training. In our dojo, with my advanced students, I tell them to wear mouthpieces. I have not heard of any other aiki group that does that. And, there has got to be some danger of getting punched in the face. And that's the only way to develop the martial aptitude and realism. So if we could just consider a few of these things. The aiki arts are not these charlatans and people fall down. I'm making a joke, but there's a lot of people out there that see that and categorize everybody under the same umbrella. And believe me, that's not what's happening in our dojo. And I know for a fact, a small group of people that I know who really push the limits and really do know the material. And if you walked into their school thinking that you see these charlatans doing the fake aiki, you will end up on your ass if you come there thinking that everything is everything, because you have got to understand that this material is real. Another thing I want to say is that those that are brave enough and training in the real material, they are going to be reversing the joint locks, throws, chokes, and attempts of some very high-level jiu-jitsu people that ignore this material or think that it does not really work. So let's kind of differentiate the real from the fake, and let's kind of push the limits in practice a little bit. You'll be glad that you did. I am very conservative in my estimates of how many people have the goods. They're out there, and a lot of us know each other. Sometimes on a first name basis, sometimes we're very close, sometimes we just know about each other. But try not to write off what you don't understand. But let's keep the practice vibrant, let's keep it vigorous, and let's keep it very realistic. I thank you very much for listening to me, and I wish you the best in your training. Assalamu alaikum.